I want to tell you a story about a group of people named the Israelites. Anybody know who the Israelites are, or Israel? Who are they? God's people, right? Yeah, they're God's people. See, God picked this group of people and he said, hey, I want to bless you and I am going to make your lives a blessing so that you can go out and you can bless others. And so the Israelites lived a long time ago in this place far away from here. And they found themselves, and they moved around here and there, and they went to this country called Egypt, right? And they are in Egypt, and things are going well for a while, and then things get really, really bad, and they actually become slaves, right? So other people are forcing them to do things that they shouldn't force them to do. And so the Israelites, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, right, are enslaved. They're slaves to Egypt. And then the Pharaoh, anybody know who Pharaoh is? He's a king, right? He's the king of Egypt. Pharaoh says, hey, there's far too many of these Israelites. And so he puts out this order. He puts out this decree that he wants all of the baby boys to be killed. Well, that's not a good thing, right? And people disobey this command. And there was this one lady that disobeyed this command, and her son was named Moses. What do you know about Moses? Where did Moses get put when he was a little baby? What did he get put in? In a basket, right? And where did they take him? Down to a river, right? They took him to the Nile River. And so he was there in the Nile River, kind of hidden among the river. And the Pharaoh's a king, right? We said that. The Pharaoh's daughter comes and finds him and takes him up. Doesn't know who he is, but takes him and raises him like her own son. And so he is raised in Pharaoh's house. He's like royalty, right? But he's also an Israelite. He's also one of God's chosen people. Well, then something happens later in his life, and he sees somebody from Israel, and he sees them being beat up and mistreated. And so he actually does some things that cause him to have to flee. And he has to leave, and he has to go far, far away from Egypt, right? From that place. Well, later, he is a shepherd. What's a shepherd do? They spend their time with sheep, right? They herd sheep and they protect the sheep and do these things. So this is what Moses does. He's a shepherd. And he's out watching his sheep do, I don't know, their sheep things, whatever sheep do, right? Anybody got a really good sheep noise? They eat grass, right? Yeah, lots of it. Anybody got a really good sheep noise? Nobody? Anybody? Right. Okay, keep that going. Keep it going. No, I'm serious. Keep it going. Okay, so he's out with the sheep, right? He's out with the sheep. And all of a sudden, you can stop now. All of a sudden, he sees this bush. And this bush is on fire, but here's the crazy thing. It's not burning up. I don't know about you, but I could just sit in my backyard and watch a fire, right? I saw some people over here last night. They had a fire, and they were sitting around it, and they were doing that, right? That was pretty awesome. And so that was you. I thought that was you. I heard you yell. You were like, hey, Adam. And I was like, hey. That's the end of the story. That's all I had on that. So I love fire, right? And I'm intrigued by it. I could just sit and watch it. So Moses sees this bush. It's burning, but it's not burning up. Like the leaves and the branches aren't turning to ashes. And so he goes closer to investigate. And the bush starts talking to him. Anybody ever had this experience before? You ever had a bush start talking to you? I would be a little concerned if a bush started talking to me. But this bush starts talking to him. And it says, Moses, Moses, right? And he recognizes that this is an amazing moment. And the voice from the bush continues, and it's actually it's actually God. And he's telling Moses, don't come any closer. He says, but take off your shoes, for you are on holy ground. And he goes on, and Moses takes off his shoes, his sandals, and he goes up, and he hears these things, and he hides his face, right? Because have you ever tried to look at the sun? Anybody ever tried that? No, that's wise. Don't. You've tried it? Did it hurt? It hurts, right? Because the sun is so... Yeah, with sunglasses, it's a little easier, but we still got to be careful, right? Because the sun is so overpowering. That's kind of the way it is with God. Like, to even look at him, he's so holy, the Bible says. He's set apart. He's unlike anything else. And so he can't even look at him. And God is like, hey, Moses, I've heard the cry of my people. And I've heard them, and I recognize their pain, and I know what they're going through, and I am going to rescue them. He says, I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Those were relatives of his in the past. Right? I'm the God of your father. I'm the God that always has been. And he says this, he says, I'm going to save the Israelites. I'm going to deliver them. And Moses is like, that's so cool. And then God says, and you're going to help me do it. And I think, would you be scared at that moment? Yes. I would be a little bit, because he has to go to Pharaoh. Who's Pharaoh? He's the king, right? He's like the most powerful man in this country. And he has to go to him and say, Pharaoh, let my people go. And Moses is like, are you sure about this? I don't really know. And he asks this question. He says, well, what if they say, what's your name? What's the name? If I go to the Israelites and say, hey, I'm going to help lead you out of this place. And they say, well, what's God's name? What do I tell them? It's a good question. And he says this. Anybody know what he says? You know what he says his name is? Any idea? He says, I am who I am. That's his name. Tell them I am sent you. That's really confusing, right? Yeah. It's kind of weird. Sounds like Dr. Seuss, right? It sounds like a Cat in the Hat book or something like that. I want you to pay attention during the rest of the sermon, because we're going to talk about like what that means. But here's the deal. God goes on to explain that Pharaoh's not going to overpower these people, and he's not going to have them in captivity any longer, but God is going to bring them out of slavery, right? So God is going to show his power. Here's one of the things that I think Moses learned at the burning bush, and I think it's really important for us as well. Moses learned that God sees his people, right? They had been in slavery. It felt like all hope was lost, but God still saw them. God hears his people. They cried out to him, and God says, no, I heard you. I heard those cries. And God was ready to save his people. And he was going to use Moses to do it, right? So I want you to know this. God hears you. He sees you. He wants to walk with you, and he wants to save you. Let me pray for you guys, and then you can go back and you can sit with your families. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the story of Moses, and just for the burning bush, and for what how it inspires us. God, I pray that you would bless these kids, that they would know that you love them, you desire a relationship with them, and that they would be a blessing to others. Amen. Right. Cool. I hope you were paying attention, because that story was not just for them. It's actually for you as well. It's for all of us, right? So here's the deal. Have you ever had that feeling when a specific moment has happened, or a specific song comes on the radio, and it immediately takes you back to where you were when you first experienced that thing or heard that song or that situation happen? I was at a funeral on Friday, and they played, one of the songs was a song from the wedding of the couple 53 years prior, right? For that man, he is immediately taken back to that moment with his wife. I've had this happen before, right? Where I'm in a car and I'll hear a song, or I'm sitting at my desk and I'll hear a song, and I immediately am taken back to my junior year of cross country, or my sophomore year of high school golf, right? Or Oh Happiness by David Crowder comes on, and I immediately think of my wedding because that's the song that we walked out to. I also think about how I almost tripped Autumn and she almost fell off the stage. We do actually have video of this somewhere, right? So, I'll never live that one down, I suppose. But songs take us back. They bring about these memories. On Thursday evening, Autumn and I had the opportunity to go up to Kansas City, and we went to a concert up there. And one of the guys who was playing is a guy by the name of John Mark McMillan. John Mark McMillan is a singer-songwriter. He's written a few songs that we've actually sung here. He just is absolutely amazing. And in the middle of the concert, I start to hear him sing this song. You may actually recognize it, some of you. It goes like this. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. Anybody heard it? You've heard it? Yeah, we sung it here some before. And immediately, when he starts singing that song, I am transported to another place. I am no longer at the Record Bar in downtown Kansas City with crammed into a tight space where it's hot and I'm sweating, but I am transported to 1622 Solway Drive, Louisville, Texas, 75067. It's the spring sometime in 2015. And here's what I remember specifically about that. I am bending over in a crib, and I'm picking up a baby that will not stop crying. It seems like nothing will console this child, except for what's been working for the last month or so, and it's this song. He is jealous for me. Love like a hurricane, I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. And I remember singing this song and her immediately stopping crying. And it worked almost every single time. See, in that moment, I'm reminded of God's faithfulness. I'm reminded that he hears our cries and he is with us. In Exodus 3, if you got a Bible, you can turn there. You heard the story earlier. I'll be referencing a few verses here and there. In Exodus 3, God's people, they have been crying out for years. They were enslaved, they were mistreated, they were broken. And what seemed like just an ordinary day in the desert for Moses, with his sheep, tending them, God shows up and reminds Moses and all of Israel, who he is. See, this chapter, it gives us a picture of who God is and what kind of God it is that we serve. And so let me give you just a few things quickly with the time we have left that this reminds us about God. First thing I think is this. It reminds us that God is holy. Moses is out in the wilderness. He's at a place that the Bible calls Horeb. Literally, it means the desolate place. He's out in the desolate place. It's amazing in Scripture how many times things happen in the desert or in the wilderness or in the desolate place. Maybe that's because God works when we least expect him to move, right? We encounter him when we least expect to encounter him. It's a range of mountains up there. Later on in the Bible, it's known as Sinai, right? The very place where God would give his law. So this is where Moses is. He's out tending his sheep. And here in the middle of nowhere, Moses sees a bush that's on fire and it's not burning up. The leaves are not withering. The branches are not crumpling. Now, it wasn't uncommon in the desert for these sorts of fires to happen. That sort of thing happens in these places. But this one is different. It just keeps burning. And so Moses thinks to himself, I need to go see what's going on with this. He goes to look. Exodus 3, verse 4 and 5 say this. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Take off your sandals. You are on holy ground. Not because this mountain is special, but because God is holy and you are in his presence, right? Here's what it means when we say that God is holy. It means that he's not like us. He is set apart. He is altogether different. He's pure. He's perfect. He's different in every way. When Moses meets God at the bush, the first thing he learns is this. You don't just casually stroll into God's presence like it's no big deal. The ground was ordinary dirt 1 minute, and the very next second, because God showed up, it suddenly became holy. That's what holiness does. Holiness transforms. And notice, Moses responds in the right way. What does it say he does? It said he hides his face. He can't even look. He knows I'm too unworthy. I can't be in the presence of this holy God who is altogether different from me. He knows he's standing before a God that is too big, too perfect, too powerful for him to fully take in. And yet, here's what else the text reminds me of. God reveals himself as compassionate. God reveals himself as compassionate. Here's the part that amazes me. Even though God is holy, even though he's set apart, he's beyond anyone or anything, he still calls to Moses. He calls him by name. He speaks to him, Moses, Moses. He doesn't stay distant. He doesn't keep silent. He comes close and he makes himself known. This is the tension that you're going to encounter all throughout the Bible. God is holy and he's set apart from us, and yet he draws near to us. Later, Israel is going to tremble at that same mountain where Moses is standing in our story when God gives the law. And there's thunder and there's lightning all around. But God doesn't stay hidden in the smoke forever. In Jesus, the holy God takes on flesh and he speaks to us face to face. I want you to think about this for a moment. In the Old Testament, anytime we read about God, you ever heard somebody say this? They're like, well, when I get to heaven, I got some questions for God. Like mosquitoes and ticks. And I don't know, take your pick of whatever other thing that just annoys you. I'm going to ask him why he did that. Can I respectfully say this? No, you're not. You are going to be so overwhelmed with who God is that you won't care a bit about mosquitoes and ticks and whatever else it is that tends to drive you crazy, because you will encounter God himself. And see, what's interesting is all throughout the Old Testament, every time we see God show up, it's like his people are terrified. And then we read in the New Testament where it says that Jesus, through him, we have seen God. we see him. We have been able to look upon Jesus and see the full glory of who God is. What an amazing privilege. He did not stay distant. He came near. Just like he said to Moses, I have heard the cries of my people. I have heard their cries. I have seen their suffering. I have seen their misery. I will come down and I will deliver them. Jesus hears our cries too. I won't even begin to guess the number of things that you may be experiencing from all the different people in a room this large. But my guess is some of you are walking through some things that feel insurmountable right now. I want to remind you of this. God hears your cries. God knows your pain. Think about it. The cries of an enslaved, beaten down people in Israel reached the ears of the Almighty God. And your cries do the same. And he promises, and he says this, I will deliver them. I will take them into a land flowing with milk and honey. That may not seem that exciting to you. You're like, well, I don't drink milk, and honey is just kind of like, okay, whatever. Here's what that means. Here's what that means. That means that he is going to deliver them into a place that is flourishing, a place that is abundant, a place that is flowing with milk and honey. That is the heart of the gospel, because just like he did that for Israel, delivering them into the promised land, he does that through Jesus for us as well. The God who is too holy for us to approach has chosen to approach us. So when we read Exodus 3, we feel both these truths at the same time, right? We feel that God is holy, he's beyond us, and yet he's not. He's not distant, he's near. He invites us into communion with him. Here's the third one that I notice from this, that God, the way that God reveals himself. God reveals himself as the one who sins. God is the one who sins. Then God tells Moses the plan. So he says, I'm going to deliver you. And he's like, great, this is awesome. And he's like, and I'm going to use you to do it. And he's like, not so great. At least that's what I'd do. Because I want somebody else to do it. No, God, you got the wrong guy. You looked at the wrong LinkedIn resume. Like, this is not, I can't, I'm a shepherd. Like, this is what I do. I'm not that guy. And God's like, no, I'm going to be with you. This is how God always works. Hey, you realize this, right? God could snap his fingers and Israel would be free. He has the power to do that. But God chooses to work through people, ordinary, weak, often reluctant people. In other words, I guess I'm saying people like me, and I don't want to assume too much, but probably people like you too, so that his strength can shine through us. In our weakness, his strength is shown. When God calls you to lead, to serve, to share your faith, the first thought is often this: I can't. No, I can't do that. And the truth is, you're half right. You can't on your own. But God says, I will be with you, and that makes all the difference. Okay, last point. Let me say this. God in this reveals his name. And this is a big one to us. This is huge. Moses still has questions. Exodus 3:14. God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Clear, right? We're good? I can move on to my next point? Give the invitation, sing a song, we go home. No, like this is weird. Who says this sort of thing? What's your name? I am. Okay, are you having like an existential crisis here? Like what's happening? But this is deep. And though it sounds more like Dr. Seuss, God is actually saying something here that we cannot miss. In Hebrew, the phrase comes from the verb to be, right? So when he says I am, he's simply saying this. He's simply saying I be. I am. That's who I am. I just always have been. You want my name? Like, that's it. He wasn't created. He doesn't depend on anyone. He doesn't change. He is the God who always has been, and always will be. And for Israel, that's good news. They were stuck in slavery with Pharaoh, a king who thought he was the most powerful man alive. And God says, no, Pharaoh is not the ultimate. Who is the ultimate? I am. I am. I am who I am. I am sufficient. I am ultimate. I am faithful. I will be who I will be. My purposes will stand. And in the Gospel of John, we read these words when Jesus stood before the Pharisees. Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. The very next verse says they picked up stones to throw at him. Why? Why is that such a big deal? Because here's what Jesus is doing. He's making the link between who he is and who God is. And he's saying, I am God. Because he wasn't just claiming to be a good teacher. He wasn't just claiming to be a prophet. He was identifying himself as this same God who spoke to Moses through the burning bush. And if Jesus is that God, and if he went to the cross, he died, he was buried, he resurrected, and he ascended back to the Father, friends, this changes everything. That's the only hope that we have. Not that we are enough, but that he is enough. Not that I can handle it, but that he is faithful. The burning bush reminds us of this. God does not say to us, be stronger, try harder, prove yourself. He says, I am who I am, and I will be with you. And when Jesus says, I am, he's saying, I am the same God who met Moses. And I am the same God who is with you and come to your rescue too. I mentioned being at a concert on Thursday, and if I'm honest, I didn't go for John Mark McMillan. I mean, he's a decent singer-songwriter, but I actually went for a band called Citizens, and they played beforehand. And they probably are my favorite band ever. Not just because they put on a good concert, but because they have music that is good, but even more so than that, because they have lyrics that are deep and meaningful and filled with truth and drive at the heart of the gospel. Points to a better story. I could read you the lyrics from my favorite song of theirs, right? I could do that, and you might get the gist of it. Or I could play it for you, right? And you might hear it a little bit more. You might, okay, now I hear what you're saying. Or I could show you a video that I took on Thursday night at this concert. Or, better than any of those, I could just invite you to come to a concert with me, to experience what I experienced, and for you to experience it yourself. Because, friends, nothing beats experiencing it yourself. Standing there, hearing it live, feeling it in your bones, right? Being around others who are doing the same, singing praises to God. See, I could tell you all these things, but I'd rather just invite you and show you. That's That's the kind of invitation I want to offer you today. Not to come to a Citizens concert, though next time they're in Kansas City, I will gladly let you know and we can all get a carpool and go together, right? But I want to invite you to something much, much greater than that. Friends, when it comes to Jesus, there is no space that his love can't reach. There is no place where we cannot find peace. And there is no end to his amazing grace. Friends, the same God who met Moses at the burning bush wants to meet with you today. And here's the first step: to take off your shoes, to recognize him for who he is, and to bow at his feet and recognize that he alone can save. Friends, you may be thinking to yourself, I'm just not good enough. That's the point. Jesus is.